It is clear that the Ministry of Agriculture plays a significant role in Israel's agricultural water ecosystem. Water is needed to grow crops and to produce food. The ability to regulate the crop-plant-water balance is among the most critical factors determining plant productivity and its survival. And it serves as a tool for the precise use of water in crop management and of agricultural production in drought conditions. I am honored to invite Professor Menahem Moshelion to deliver his talk on the functional screening for drought-tolerant crops. Menahem is a researcher at the Institute, He's a researcher at the Institute for Plant Sciences and Genetics, Faculty of Agriculture, Food and Environment, the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Menahem, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Daniel and Galit, for inviting me. I'm excited to be here. Shalom. So, my name is Menahem Moshelion. I'm a plant physiologist at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, the Faculty of Agriculture. And I want to start with a short introduction. You know, plants, in particular crops, are responsible to all the food we eat, to all the fiber we use, and basically also to all the oil we use. All started with a very ancient procedure called photosynthesis, where light, water, and CO2 are used to produce sugars, only sugars. This is what photosynthesis does. Later, these sugars are translated to be metabolites, which is proteins, RNA, DNA. Basically, this is our food. And crop responds to all of it. Crops are autotrophic plants. I mean, plants are autotrophic, which means they use the water and mineral from the soil, sun, to produce us basically all the minerals and nutrients we need. And in this process, plants lose a lot of water to the atmosphere in order to gain CO2. This is a very principal mechanism called water use efficiency, but the numbers are immense. In order to get one CO2 molecule from the air, plants need 500 molecules of water. This is under normal condition. So if you do the calculation for one maize or one banana, the farmer needs to irrigate 100 liters of water. These numbers are incredible. And this is why we need to work so hard to find better water use plants. 1 kilo of avocado, 1 kilo, it's like 3 to 4 avocado, need to be irrigated in 500 liters of water. Israel is a major export of avocado. So we need a lot of water for agriculture. And the problem is, we all know, this is why we are here, global changes. This graph here in orange show you, okay, this orange part are the yield losses in one droughted year. 1 year, you lose between 60 to 80% of your yield. Now, what is drought is a big question, but it's enough not to have rain for 3 weeks in places that doesn't irrigate, and you have total loss of your fields. These are all major crops in the world. So, of course, the FAO defined that we need to increase food production in 2050 by 50 to 70%. This is a nice thing. The problem is the water. Now, that means that today, if we are here, we have to be here at 2050. Basically, for scientists, that means you need to improve the breeding. Breeding process, as you see in the graph, is very successful in the last year. What you see in the graph, these are the years, and this is the amount of food we can produce. These are cereals. You see more than double, almost 3 times we improve the food production of cereals. These are legumes. Legumes are protein plants, like chickpea, like soya, like peas. Legumes mainly made us sugars, carbohydrates, and cereals make us carbohydrates, and legumes make us the protein. This is the major protein source from plants. The problem that to breed this plant to be tolerant to drought, you need between 20 to 25 years just for one crop. It's a long process. I'm not going to get to detail why, but it's a very long process. And in the end, we have to find alternative approaches. And I want today to suggest a bit of a different approach. This global map shows you the lands we use today for agriculture. Okay, it looks like round, but the percentage are real. We use 70% of the lands to produce food based on plants only. 13% more, these are plant-based food used to feed animals, chickens, and so on. And about 70% of our lands are used to produce meat and milk and other factors in pasture. If to take out of this part all the meat and milk, you get about 50%, 47% of the lands today used only for meat. Just meat. Okay? Now, I think that if you can take a small percentage of this part to produce protein plants, this could save us a lot of time in this 2050 production. Remember, we need to make 50 to 70% more food. I suggest to prepare more protein food. What do I mean by that? To make 100 grams of protein, okay, protein that we eat, if you base it on animals, you need 185 square meters to grow 100 grams of proteins, right? Most of the meat we eat is for proteins. To the same amount of protein, 100 grams, you need only 3.5 meters of chickpea, for example, or peas. 50 times less area to produce the same amount of protein. So in my research, together with Professor Shachal Abu, there in the pictures, he collected and he gave me chickpeas from all over the world. And why we choose chickpea for protein? Many good reasons, but one important one is the fact that chickpea is growing in arid lands. Okay? Chickpea can grow in places that from the beginning doesn't have so much water. So in my lab, what we do, we took all these 110 chickpeas and we look for a way to screen them, to look for the best way to find the plants that will be most tolerant to drought. How do you do it? You can look at the plant, right? You can just use imaging. But then if you expose them to drought, you can have the top plant or the bottom one. Which one would you choose for breeding? The upper one? Wrong. The upper one looks good just because it closes stomata and keeps his water. That means he does not produce. It's like looking for a worker in the field and choosing the one with the clean hands in the end of the day. Doesn't really do the work, right? You want the one with the dirty hand that look very poor. This is why imaging is so confusing, and we have to use different approach. Our approach based on physiological screening. We don't look at a plant, we measure its activity and performance. We use it like, the Apple Watch that measures your physiological all over the day. So if you are running on a runner and somebody measures your trait, your physiological traits, we can really very fast do a physiological profile under stress and non-stress. This is called stress test. We do the same, only for plants. We use the Plant-DiTech system, a system that we have in the faculty. It's an agtech company developed in Israel and now selling all over the world. This technology enables us to control each plant, soil, water, and atmosphere conditions. So we measure each plant in a randomized design. We can follow its soil water content, growth rate, transpiration, and all the plants are exposed to similar conditions. So we can do a continuous and simultaneous exam. It's very important because you want to compare your plants exposed to the exact same conditions. So the system enables us to do any drought we want per each plant in the array. Each one can get a different treatment, so we can really compare the best under certain treatment. And we get many physiological results out of the system, so we can actually screen the plant that are more suitable to the areas we really want to breed in. Of course, it's going to be arid places. This is a picture from my greenhouse. I have more than 500 units like this. That means I can screen simultaneously 500 plants. And we follow for many traits. I just show you a short example. I'm not going to get to the scientific part. But we look for plants that can grow very fast. Then when they are exposed to drought, they will close stomata also very fast and recover from drought very fast. So they need to well grow under welling condition. But this is a drought point. When you recover it, You also want to have the plants to have a very nice dry shoot and very good water use efficiency. I explained before what is water use efficiency. It's the amount of water per amount of carbon the plant uses. Also very important, as I said before, we want to test the recovery rate. This is drought. You can see the soil water content going down. Here is when the plant recovers, let's say rain comes. You want the plants that recover the fastest. Like in one day, keep production like they previously did. So what we did, we took all the 100 population of chickpea, we screened them in this test together, and we look for this plant that really has all these parameters. I'm not going to get too much to details in these 15 minutes, but the idea is to look for the best candidate that could be selected based on their performance, and only then breed them together with high protein and so on. So the idea is really to have a physiological screening to find the best plant to the best scenario and continue with the breeding later on for other important traits like high protein, early flower, vitamin, minerals, and so on and so forth. So, in conclusion, what I suggest that this plant we select may be used in this small part, maybe 10% of the zone we use today for meat. Remember, we need 50 times less area to produce the same amount of protein. So I just want to thank the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Innovation, and DFG, and also the ISF, the Israeli Scientific Foundation, for funding me most of my research, and thank you. Any questions? Yes, please.
This might not be a question for you, but we need an alternative for meat. So what is the future of lab-grown or cultured meat to replace the meat that we wouldn't grow to create chickpea protein?
So I'm a plant physiologist, and I can tell you can get very cheap, very rich proteins which are not meat. From the nutritional point of view, it's perfect. Now, if you really want to taste meat and to have a meat growing in the lab, you have to ask someone else. I truly believe that the plant-based meat is much more important, but it's me. I don't want to fight with anyone else here. Yes, please.
What is the role of genetic screening or phylogenetics in speeding up the process for identifying high-yield plants?
It's part of the role.
tolerant?
So today you can get a genome very, very cheap, very quickly, like $1,000. The problem, you have the gene list, but you don't have the performance, right? So you have like 30,000 genes, but you don't even know how it's going to respond to drought. So you have to have the functional screening. It's not going to help you unless you can really connect these two methods. So genome are very important, but you have to see how the plant looks, I would say, but more important, performs.
Last question. Okay.
Are there any developments in perennial cereals and legumes?
Perennial cereals, like what?
No, I'm asking in development.
Most of the cereals I know are seasonal. Perennial plants, yes, from cacao trees to coffee trees, but perennials are much, the question is very different, because in annual plants, when you lose the season, you lose the season. In perennial, you can lose one season, maybe next season, if the plant doesn't die, you're still going to get it. If annual plant just survive, it doesn't help you, because you have to have the yield. So with annuals, it's not a survival question, it's production questions. It's very different.
Okay, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Menahem, thank you very much for your excellent lecture, and have a safe